quorum, you said?
Yeah.
You know when you're ready.
Who's out? He out?
They've had a family emergency.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
I don't know all the details, but something with one of his kids. So he's been out for a couple days.
Hope everything's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we should be good to go.
Well, we will call the meeting to order and begin with our invocation and pledge. Thank you, Mayor.
Dear Lord, thank you for the days that you give us. Thank you for watching over the world as it's in a trying time right now. Thank you for the everyday life and freedom that we have. And please bless and look over us as we go into the future. In God's name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah. Now go ahead and do our roll call
Frank Williams,
here.
Mike Forte,
Here.
Mark Martin,
Here.
Dave DeLong,
Here.
Laverne Coleman, Scott Floyd, Terry Mann,
Here.
Gary Keaton,
Here.
Gary Groves,
Here.
Hugh Kennedy,
Here.
William Ravenbark, and Grady Hunt.
We do have a quorum, and I'll now go on to the ethics, awareness, and conflict of interest statement. In accordance with the State Government Ethics Act, it's the duty of every committee member to avoid conflicts of interest. Does any committee member have any known conflict of interest with respect to any matters coming before the committee today? If so, please identify the conflict and refrain from any participation in the particular matter involved. And does anyone have any conflicts on the agenda? And if you see something that comes up at that point, just please address it then. It's easy to not notice something until you see it there. Any additions or corrections to the agenda? Or is everybody good with that as published? And if there are no changes, we have a motion to approve.
I have a question. I'm sorry, I couldn't get chimed in quick enough. Hugh Kennedy.
Yes, sir.
And look, guys, I'm new to this, so this may be at the wrong time, but my staff and I talked about priority on the agenda, and she said it was addressed when they had their meeting, that we were requesting that they be inverted. I don't know if now's the time to bring that up or not. That's basically my question.
That's the item number 11 that we'll be talking about that.
Okay, cool deal.
Any other questions about the agenda, or do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move for approval.
Do I have a motion from Commissioner Forte? Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. DeLong, and I guess we have to do a roll call vote.
Yes.
We'll do the roll call.
Frank Williams,
Yes.
Mike Forte,
Aye.
Mark Martin,
Yes.
Dave DeLong,
Yes.
Terry Mann,
Yes.
Gary Keaton,
Yes.
Gary Grove,
Yeah.
Hugh Kennedy.
Yes.
Agenda is approved. We'll now move on to the minutes, which were included in the packet. Does anyone have any additions or corrections to the minutes? Or if not, do we have a motion? Not everybody at once.
Everybody's awake yet, huh? I'll move for approval.
Commissioner Forte, is there a second?
Terry Mann seconds.
Thank you, Mayor Mann. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll do another roll call.
Frank Williams,
Aye.
Mike Forte,
Aye.
Mark Martin,
Aye.
Dave DeLong,
Aye.
Terry Mann,
Aye.
Gary Keaton,
Yes.
Jerry Groves,
Aye.
Hugh Kennedy.
Yes.
The minutes are approved. Next item is public comment, and I guess first, did we have anything submitted?
We did not.
Anyone online for public comments?
Not that I see.
Going once, going twice. Anyone in the room wish to speak? Seeing none, we'll move on to public hearing is what it says. Is it a public hearing or presentation?
This is a public hearing for our local input points.
Okay, so yes, do you have any comments before we open the public hearing?
No, I guess, do you want me to give a presentation on the local input points before we open it, or?
I'll do that because then if there's any comments, people will comment on what they just heard. So, yeah.
Okay. Okay, so the Cape Fear RPO, as many of you know, is required to develop and follow a methodology for prioritizing transportation projects within our planning boundary. And then once we submit projects, then we are to put local input points on them in an effort to get them funded. They're competing for state and federal funding. The methodology that we follow was approved by this board in April of 2024 and also then approved by NCDOT. For the past few months, I've worked with DOT as well as pretty much everyone in this room, TCC and TAC members, to go through all of our projects that are eligible for funding at the regional tier and then to assign draft input points on them. And so that's what we are reviewing today. Just as a reminder, information on prioritization can be found at the RPO's website. So that includes a slide deck on just the basics of prioritization, the projects that we submitted last fall, the scores of those projects, as well as the methodology, which is included in your packet, and the draft points that we'll be reviewing today. As a reminder,
We're just at the regional tier, correct?
that's correct. So as a reminder, projects that compete among three different funding categories. I might say categories, I might say tiers, I might say buckets. I mean the same thing with all of those. As Commissioner Williams said, today we're talking specifically about the regional impact tier. So the division needs will come later. That will be at our next meeting. It is also important to remember that projects that aren't picked up for funding in one category cascade down to the next. That's what's illustrated here in this graphic. Started with statewide, and then projects that weren't picked up for funding there also compete. So in the past, you've seen project lists that we're discussing today. Some projects are denoted as in statewide, some in regional. That's why there's both, is because they cascade down through this. And now the projects that are competing, their final score is a 70-30 split based off the quantitative data that DOT uses, and then the local input provided by the RPO and the division. This is just another way to visualize it. I've shown this before. Highlighted there in yellow is the 15% of the regional impact overall score that we have direct control over and that we're discussing today. Again, as has been shown, the methodology that the Cape Fear RPO uses, and as a reminder, we have 1,300 points to assign to projects in both the regional tier and the division tier. So 1,300 in each, 2,600 in total. Our methodology has us go project by project and look at 4 criteria. First being its P7 quantitative score that we get straight from NCDOT. And then division priority, kind of a ranking of high, medium, and low of those projects that have competed. The same thing for the county. We had those meetings a few weeks ago. Many of you, if not all of you in this room, were present at those. And then a marker for project development. So that's if the project has a feasibility study, if it's competed in previous rounds of prioritization, if there's right-of-way happening already or getting ready to happen, to try to give a little boost to projects that already have some momentum. So once we take those 4 criteria, we then establish a new ranking. That's the big multicolored spreadsheet that you have in your packet. And then we assign points in 3 waves. We give points, and we can give up to 100 points on each project to the top 2 projects in each county, so 3 of our counties, and then the top 3 non-highway projects, and then the remaining points go to the next highest scoring projects, regardless of their mode. And so now we're going to go through the draft point assignments following these 3 waves. And if you have any questions, please let me know. So first on the list is that first wave, the top 2 highway projects in each of our 3 counties. So in Brunswick County, That was the widening of 211 from Sunset Harbor to Midway, joining up with the portion that's currently under construction, as well as the intersection to interchange improvement at 17 and 211. And you'll notice on that project specifically, we only have 59 points assigned. That is because that intersection is part of our border with GSAPs. We're proposing to assign 59. The remaining 41% comes from them, and they're also planning to assign that, giving that project a total of 100 points. In Columbus County, it's the project to upgrade US 74 to interstate standards, basically from Lumberton to Chadburn. We're proposing 52 points on the project because, again, of that corridor, only 52% is in the RPO. The remaining 48 points would be coming from the Lumber River RPO, who also plans to assign points there. The other Columbus County project is the widening of 87 to 4 lanes from the currently ongoing project at Narrow Gap Road to US 74, 76. And then in Pender County, upgrading US 17 to a controlled access facility, and then modernizing US 117 from Porter's Lane Road to South Walker Street at the edge of Burgaw. For our top 3 non-highway projects, an additional ramp and gantry system at Southport for the ferry system, upgrading the rail infrastructure for new intercity rail passenger service from Wilmington to Raleigh via Goldsboro. That kind of falls in line with the presentation you heard from the rail division at our last meeting. The reason that we only have 16 points there is because that's as much of that project as is in the RPO. There are several other planning organizations that project runs through. And the last one is replacing the visitor center, the Southport Fort Fisher ferry line. Excuse me. And then the remaining projects, just going down the list until the points run out, essentially, are shown here on the screen. So upgrading US 74, 76 interstate standards from the county line to Mako Road at NC 87. The remaining portion of NC 211, widening that to 4 lanes from Sunset Harbor to US 17, that intersection in Supply.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yes, sir.
We can't do that project until we do the Midway area project, right? Why did we even bother assigning points to it now? Just to keep it on the list?
In part, yes. And yeah, I guess that's the most straightforward answer is, yeah, to keep it on the list, but also to note that that's one of the highest priorities.
Well, 140 proved that you don't have to have the middle completed to do the other end.
That's true, yeah. Okay, thank you.
And for it following this, this section does not score as highly as the other section, which is why it wasn't in the top 2 for the county.
And the Midway is obviously the number 1 in the top 2. And these remaining eligible projects, they're just ranked largely in point order, except you got the 92.
So yes, so the 92, that's because, again, once we get to that 17 to 11 intersection, that's where our border is with GSATs.
Yeah.
GSATs plans to provide the remaining 8 points.
Okay.
And then this final project, the turning lanes in BSL, that's 81 because that's what our remaining point value was once we got to that.
Okay. That's a relatively small project too.
Yes, and I will provide a specific note on that project.
The one above that, US 74 and Blacksmith Road, where is that?
I don't know what Blacksmith Road
Was that Columbus or Brunswick? Where is that?
That's in Columbus.
Okay. So nothing in Pender County scored in that top remaining eligible?
That's correct.
Did they have anything close?
Modernization of NC 53 and Burgaw. So this chart that's in your packet is ranked by its our methodology score.
What are we picking up on here? How far down?
It's the second one in white, right underneath that second pink line.
Okay.
Got it. Is that area that just flooded last week?
I'm not,
53 Smith Street. I don't think that flooded. Did you see any flooding there, Mr. Jerry?
53 going to Maple Hill.
Yeah, so, yeah. Are you familiar with, where the quarry is?
Yeah.
Past Shaw Highway?
Yeah.
So that flooded for sure.
Okay.
And then a portion of 50 in that same area flooded as well.
Yeah, Old Maple Hill Road.
Yeah, and then now Shaw Highway is flooded. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but the Smith Street, that's closer to town, right, Mr. Jerry?
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know we're still in our, I haven't gotten to the public hearing yet. I'm just hesitant for there not to be anything on our list from this below here that's from Pender. Unless there's just something there's nothing even remotely in the ballpark. So we can come back to that when we get to the actual discussion in a minute.
I just have a question. So our top tier ones on the page before, like big dollars. And there's only this much money in the state budget for things that we're getting the whole state or just our region,
Just our region.
just our region. So you take something like for $2 million. The chances of us being able to get all of those big projects done is next to nil, probably. I mean, we're not gonna take the whole bucket of money. So how to accomplish some of the smaller projects, would it be better to move them up so that if there's leftover money after X, does it automatically jump down to, let's assume we have $3 million, the state has in the region $3 million left over. Does that $2 million jump to get at that, or how does that work? The way I'm looking at it, would not.
Probably depends on the scoring, whether or not it would score.
Right, it ultimately depends on its final score. So a way to think about it, when we assign 100 points to a project, we take in this chart, this green, dark green column, that's its P7 score. We're essentially adding 15 points to that score. And so for every project that we assign 100 local points to, all of those are getting boosted by 15. And they're going to stop, the STIP office in Raleigh is going to stop once the money runs out. They're not going to start jumping big dollar projects until they get down to a smaller dollar amount. They'll just, I guess, what they usually like partially fund.
They don't rush
Yeah,
it.
they-
They stop and then get funding to help the cost of their own funding.
Yeah.
So the chances of the $2 million project ever being funded seems remote. Am I misinterpreting what the conversation is?
Relative to these, like, I don't know, I don't see that one jumping above the others.
So would that then drop down to the district level because it's a smaller amount of money? I'm not using it as an example.
Sure.
I'm not, because I'm not particularly smart about that particular project. I'm just using the dollar amount.
So when we next look at projects competing in the division level, all of these projects on this list are gonna
Okay.
cascade down. At that point, this board could decide to intentionally prioritize low-cost projects. That is,
So knock out a bunch of them if you don't think you're going to get a big hunk of money for one.
like, that is, like, when we have those meetings to rank them high, medium, and low, that could be a deciding factor of,
Yeah.
let's rank high projects that are low cost.
Can you remind us of the financial situation and likelihood of getting anything funded and percentage of projects that actually got funded? Do we have, I know we talked about that at the last meeting.
6 projects in the state, wasn't it?
Correct.
State level.
That, at the state level, yeah, it was about 10 out of 587, I think. For this regional category, there is a little bit of money in the region that includes Division 6, which is Columbus County. But after looking at that, we're kind of predicting that most of those projects are coming out of the Triangle or Fayetteville. And then for the region that Brunswick and Pender County is currently projected in the negative. And so it's not expected that any new projects will be funded in this round.
That's not to say that next year in the long session, the General Assembly can't throw. We'll use that same probably $2 million to BSL to get it done.
It's not impossible.
But it won't happen if it's not on the list either, will it?
Correct. They would want to see
Yeah.
proof. And that's why this project, for example, the TCC, when we were running down this list, that 81 points had been on the H 18, 37, 35, that first project in white, just because it was next on the list. That's the 211 corridor, both segments combined. And the TCC decided, well, if both of those segments already have points, they recommended moving those points to the turn lanes in BSL because that is a known issue.
Hypothetically, let's say somehow there was $2 million left at this tier and by the, including it, even though it scored lower than the $40 million project above it, would it have a chance of getting funded if there randomly happened to be $2 million available?
I'm not sure.
That's basically my
Yeah.
question. How do we move to, there's little chance we're gonna get any number of projects done. How do we try to at least fix the smaller projects that are more localized? I realize that, but rather than just not get anything. I don't know, I'm not smart enough to figure out how you do
Well,
that.
so part of the, can I speak?
Sure.
Part of the, problem to get those smaller projects to, get to the top of the funding list is that data-driven score in the dark green on the column here. And that is, developed, statewide across the board, all projects. So that makes up in the regional impact tier, 70% of the score. So even if you put the 15 points on that you can at the RPO, and if the division put our 15 points on, that only boosts it by 30. So it still might not make it to the top of the list because of that 70%. That's the data-driven score. However, all of these projects that don't get funded in regional, as Sam was saying a couple of slides ago, they're going to cascade and compete in division needs. So smaller projects typically would have a better chance to get funded at the division needs category. However, there is a negative balance.
If there was money.
Too many commas in that sentence.
Now, one thing I do, I'll show you, let me change the screen here. Because this, what you have in your packet is a static sheet. But if I pull back the curtain, and let me make sure that I'm still sharing this for everyone online. Where am I? Zoom. So if I pull back the curtain a little bit, what you have in your packet is a sheet that is ranked by our methodology score. But once we put points on it to effectively boost its P7 score by 15, that, and specifically looking at this low-cost BSL project, that project was actually, in our RPO, the second highest scoring highway project.
Which one is that again?
The BSL.
Or sorry, the BSL turning lanes, the one that's in a light orange. So even though the way that it falls in the order that we're assigning points makes it look like it's 10 or 12 down the list, in actuality, it's our second highest scoring highway project in the whole RPO. So once we put points on it, it's already higher.
Because of the data-driven number by the state.
Yes.
And because of our local input points.
That gets added.
It's 15, if I understood that correctly.
You're only assigning 81 to that one, so.
Right, so it probably boost it by like 12 or 13 proportionally.
Yeah, any other questions, or do you have more you want to cover?
I think that was it.
That's it. I'm open to public hearing.
And then just a reminder of the schedule. You've seen this before.
Yeah. Beautiful Gantt chart.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
We'll open the public hearing. Was anything submitted electronically?
No, sir.
Any public comments from anyone online? Going once. Going twice. And if you're an elected from a jurisdiction that's not on the board, but you're online, this is a chance to be heard if you have any comments. Any comments from anyone in the room? Going once. Going twice, seeing none, we will close the public hearing, and I guess the discussion of this is our next item on the agenda.
That's correct.
Let's get I mean, do we want to make any changes to the recommended point assignments. Again, my only concern is once we get past the top two from each county that there's Pender seems to be absent, but if there's nothing that scores high enough, I also understand that. If I was reading it correctly.
The problem is $0 available.
Yeah, yeah, it's almost like we're rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic.
The $0 is at the district level or the regional level?
So it's at the regional and
Golly.
unfortunately. Well, it's at the negative in Division 3.
Is that because, would that change that they actually passed the budget? Is there money like lined up in the budget?
No,
Okay.
no. It's due to cost increases of existing funded projects. We talked about, we have a lot of projects that are currently funded in the area. With the increase of those costs of projects that are already funded, they're sucking up the budget.
Okay. Let me ask you a question. The 211 project that's currently going on is, I understand that was what, 247 million, I think it was. Is it still within budget or because of cost increases, it's
I'm
skyrocketed?
not sure where
30
that one
million?
stands, but I have to follow them.
Or is it still?
So in general, once we have those unit prices,
Mhm.
those unit prices are locked in unless the contractor can prove a substantial material cost increase.
Right.
And we evaluate that from a whole industry-wide level. You know, we have fluctuating prices in asphalt. We have fluctuating prices in rebar and steel. Outside of that, we don't have very many fluctuating prices in general. There may be a small specific case if we had a specialty item that was bid 5 years ago at one unit price. The market became way more competitive by, 2-3 years into the project, material delays, et cetera. We may consider those type things, but again, for the most part, those unit prices are locked in at bid time.
Is it still on time?
We are on schedule with that project.
Impressive, thank you.
Yep.
Anyone want to make any changes to what's proposed, or do we want to have go ahead and have a motion to approve? Any comments? Or from anyone online, any comments?
I don't think there's a whole lot of
Yeah.
options here, so I'll make the motion.
Motion is made. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. DeLong. Any discussion on the motion to approve the point assignments as presented? Seeing none, we'll do roll call.
Frank Williams,
Aye.
Mike Forte,
Aye.
Mark Martin,
Yes.
Dave DeLong,
Aye.
Terry Mann,
Aye.
Gary Keaton,
Aye.
Jerry Groves,
Aye.
Hugh Kennedy.
Motion carries, and now we just have to all pray for manna from heaven.
Yeah.
Next item is priorities of existing committed projects. I think that's where the gentleman from Pender had a question, and I think it may be referenced in the last line on the agenda item that's highlighted and italicized here. But I'll turn it over to Sam for discussion.
Yes, so you have a memo in your packet, and to make sure that I explain this correctly, I'm gonna follow the language that's in that memo. This was given to me by DOT STIP unit. So as part of the development of the 2026 to 2035 draft STIP, NCDOT is seeking input from planning organizations and divisions on priorities of existing committed projects. These projects have previously been selected for funding through prioritization cycles 3.0, 4.0, and 5.0. There's a typo there, my apologies. This input will be used to assist the STIP unit when adjusting schedules to meet federal and state fiscal constraint requirements. As you're aware, the P7.0 funding availability for many of the regional impact and division needs funding categories is in the negative. For these funding categories, schedule changes will occur to meet federal and state fiscal constraint requirements for the draft 2026-2035 STIP. By default, the STIP unit will use the seniority approach as the initial ranking of priorities for the 7 regional impact and 14 division needs funding categories. Statewide mobility category has already been completed. The seniority approach was recommended by the prioritization work group and approved by the Board of Transportation to develop the 2024 to 33 STIP, which is our current STIP. This approach ranks projects in each funding category as follows. Highest to lowest scoring projects from P 3.0, followed by highest to lowest scoring projects from 4.0, followed by highest to lowest scoring projects from P 5.0. Planning organizations and divisions can modify rankings within their region or division as long as both the planning organization and division agree on any changes. If they do not agree on changes or do not desire to make any changes, the STIP unit will continue to use the seniority approach rankings as input for the development of the draft 2026 to 35 STIP. And then in that memo in your packet, I provided the projects within the Cape Fear RPO that the STIP unit sent us to consider. For projects at the regional tier, both in B and C, there was only 1 in each, so there's nothing to do there. However, in Division 3, there are 2 projects in Pender County, shown here on your screen as well, to consider either leaving in this ranking or switching. And again, if we desire to adjust these rankings, the RPO and the division, we submit that to the STIP unit by the end of this month.
I see in the agenda item that the TCC recommended flipping the ranking of the 2 projects that are on the screen.
Yes.
What do the folks in Pender say about that? I mean, I know the gentleman online, and I blanked out on the name, Mr. Kennedy, I believe, had a comment. Do you want to speak on that?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Yeah, we were after talking staff here, and I think it was brought up in their meeting with RPO staff prior to our meeting today. We were hoping to invert the seniority rankings on these 2 projects. And the theory being, if you can think of a river and you got 2 problems in the river, well, if you fix the one upriver first, you just created more problems for the one downriver. That's why we'd like to invert it.
Yep. So Amy Kimes, who's their planning director, proposed the swap. She said that they're working with development to kind of move along R 5900 a little faster. And so specifically Surf City and Topsail, as Mr. Kennedy said, we're in favor of that, and the TCC agreed.
Mr. Groves, you have any comments?
I agree with Mr.
Okay. And DOT folks, y'all good with this? Do we need a motion to do that?
Yes.
So if we could have a motion to approve these, but with those 2 items inverted, who wants to make that motion?
Speak up.
I don't know that Jeff's here as an alternate. I don't know that he can do that, so. Somebody from Pender County?
I'll make the motion, but I don't know if I'm allowed since it's directly my town.
No, it's even better.
As long as you don't get any.
All right, I would like to make the motion that we invert those 2 projects to seniority ranking.
Motions to submit the priorities with these 2 items reversed. Is there a second from Mr. Groves, who I was going to call on the second? We'll do the roll call.
Frank Williams.
Aye.
Mike Forte.
Aye.
Mark Martin.
Aye.
Dave DeLong.
Aye.
Terry Mann.
Aye.
Gary Keaton.
Yes.
Jerry Groves. Hugh Kennedy.
Yes.
Motion carries. And, just as an aside, that's the importance of having people at these meetings. Because if y'all had not been here to tell us that, and had not shown up at the TCC, we would not have known that. And, we sent a letter to one of our counties that has been chronically absent, and I was hoping they'd be here today, but they're not here today. So that's, a friend of mine and Mike's, who's a former commissioner from the western part of the state, said, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And, I don't want to be deciding things like that for the other counties. So I'm glad that you guys are here today to comment on that. And I wish that every county would be, and every organization that has a chance to participate would do that. Usually what will happen is after we've been working on this 4 years and we just submitted it, they'll show up and complain. Not specifically the one that's not here, but that's just how it works. And it's better to get engaged early in the process and direct where things go. So I will now get off of that soapbox and we can move on to the next item. And there are 2 resolutions I see, and we can do those on one motion. Sam, if you want to explain those.
Yes, so these are resolutions of support for 5310 grant applications. These are for our transit agencies, funds specifically for the mobility of seniors and individuals with disabilities. Both of these are actually in Columbus County. Monarch traditionally helps Columbus County transportation with medical transportation. And every year we've provided a resolution of support for their application. This year, Columbus County Transportation has also decided to apply for funds to help offset some of their costs as well. So
do the two applications compete with each other, or is there?
No.
Okay.
no, they do not compete with each other. It's simply additional benefit to the transit needs of Columbus County.
These are pretty routine. I remember doing these about every year. So if there are no questions, I'll accept a motion from whoever wants to make it.
This is Terry Mann. I make a motion, we approve both resolutions.
Thank you, Mayor. Is there a second? I'm looking at Mike Forte. Mike just looked up at me, so Mike is on record as a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? I guess we got to do the roll call.
Sir, Frank Williams,
Aye.
Mike Forte,
Aye.
Mark Martin,
Aye.
Dave DeLong,
Aye.
Terry Mann,
Aye.
Gary Keaton,
Aye.
Jerry Groves,
Aye.
Hugh Kennedy.
Motion carries. And next item is a minor adjustment to our meeting calendar, which is our October meeting that's currently scheduled for October the 11th. And your chairman now has a County Commissioner Association board meeting on the same day in a different part of the state. And I cannot be in two places at once. And because of where that meeting is located, I'll be leaving that Thursday to travel to it. So I think the proposal is to move this meeting from Friday morning to Thursday morning, the 10th. If y'all can check your calendars and make sure that works before we get into a motion.
You know, funny this should come up. When I was putting this on my calendar, that's Yom Kippur. I don't know if anybody here, if that affects anyone, but I thought that when I wrote this in.
The 10th or the
No, the 11th was Yom Kippur. I'm fine moving it to the 10th. I don't know how everybody else feels.
Any objection? Not, we need a motion.
Is that meeting to be available on Zoom? I'll be traveling, but I'll have access to Zoom if I would assume it. Will it be the same as a Zoom meeting now, or like the one we had in Burgaw?
It'll be like this one. Zoom will be available.
Okay, thank you.
This is the 10th of which month?
October. Yeah.
I make a motion, we move the meeting from the 11th to the 10th of October.
Motion by Mayor Mann. Is there a second? Is there a second by Dave DeLong?
I'll second that.
All right, the motion has been made and properly seconded. Now that I've woken up the gentleman from St. James, roll call.
Frank Williams,
Aye.
Mike Forte,
Aye.
Mark Martin,
Aye.
Dave DeLong,
Aye.
Terry Mann,
Aye.
Gary Keaton,
Aye.
Jerry Groves,
Aye.
Hugh Kennedy. I'll have that calendar invite edited and sent out to you later today.
Now we move on to the part of the agenda that does not require audiences to be participating or awake. So I'll turn it over to Sam for reports.
Yes, it's my turn again, so you can fall asleep if you'd like.
I think they may already be there.
Probably. Either I'm soothing or boring. Let's go with the first one. So for your staff report today, as usual, you have amendments to the STIP. All the ones that are listed in there are just either pavement rehabilitations, rumble strips, guardrail replacements, and those are generally overseen by the Transportation Mobility and Safety Division. The next thing is the Integrated Mobility Division Multimodal Planning Grant Program. If you'll remember, I believe it was our April meeting, this board approved resolutions of support for both Oak Island and Southport's applications to that planning grant program. This was for Oak Island to have a new bicycle transportation plan and Southport to do a project acceleration plan, which is kind of a streamlined plan that builds on their existing pedestrian plan to identify some priority projects and kind of flesh those out a bit more. And both of these grants were approved. As a special note, I guess, for the Cape Fear RPO, there were 8 grants approved. There were only 8 applicants, but there were 8 grants approved, and we have a quarter of those. So
Yesterday was the first time I've heard about this.
with the Southport one, will that give it, the grant is just to study the route and do that analytical work?
Yes.
Will it have the same impact as the normal way that those things are done? If that makes sense. In other words, when we get done with the whole project of doing the analytical work under the confines of this grant, when we come back here and say we would like to have this funded, will we have accomplished the task of that one part of it, doing the analytical work?
Yes, it'll make it easier to get funded because we'll have better cost estimates. A lot of the pedestrian and bicycle projects, they get submitted. The estimates can vary.
Yes.
This will do some extra planning and design work that will give us more accurate estimates and should increase its competitiveness.
Thank you.
So those should get underway here in the next few months, and as there are updates, we'll bring those back to this group. A reminder on the Pender County Comprehensive Transportation Plan, there's a public survey out through the remainder of this month. I'll be sending a reminder either later today or beginning of next week. Encourage anyone who lives in or travels through Pender County to provide comments on that survey to boost the start of this study. Also wanted to announce DOT sent out a news release the other day about their biannual litter sweep. I know people have participated in this in the past. This happens twice a year. You can sign up with a volunteer group to help go out and clean up our roadways. And then lastly, this is another new thing that came out from DOT this week. Their advanced NC transportation website. This is a site geared towards the conversation about rethinking how we fund transportation moving forward, kind of based on the premise that the gas tax is becoming increasingly less reliable. And so this site, you can learn more about alternative ways to fund transportation. You can participate in a survey, provide your opinions on the future of transportation funding. And they have a gas tax calculator. Essentially, you can put in what you kind of contribute via the gas tax, and it will compare that to some other alternative funding methods. And so you can see how, you know, that might be increased funding to the state, but perhaps a lower cost to you. So I would encourage anyone who's interested to take a look at that and also just pass that along to others. And then that concludes my report, but I'll take any questions if there are any.
Is this a carry on? Remember a couple years ago, the project where you put
The user fee?
Yeah.
It's kind of a continuation of that, yes, sir.
Yeah.
By the same group, and that's one of the other alternatives that they mentioned in there is how that would compare to the gas tax.
I participated in that. It was pretty interesting. I mean, you know, there were some geeky parts to it, but it was pretty interesting comparison. So. Yeah.
Any questions for Sam on anything or anything else?
That's all I have.
Anything from ports?
We have nothing from the ports or the ferry today.
Okay. Division 3.
I've got that today. Good morning, everyone. If you look in your packet, you have 3 sheets from us. Just as a reminder, the first one is about projects that are in development to be let. The orange page are those projects in construction, and the green page lists those projects that are basically maintenance, resurfacing, and pavement preservation. So I'll start with the 2 projects that are going to be let on the blue page and the CFRPO. We have a bridge preservation project. It's Bridge 16 over the Intercoastal Waterway on 50 and 20 and 210. That's up in the Pender County region in State City. That is proposed to be let on the 20th of this month. The next project is the replacement of over Sand Hill Creek. It's 2 culverts, basically the River Road, 133 along Brunswick County along the river. That's going to be let in September on the 17th.
I believe y'all are coming to somebody from DOT is coming to our meeting Monday.
Monday night. Yeah, so Dan Cumbo will be there. He'll be speaking on that project and any other thing in that area.
Yeah, that's, that one I think is gonna be, something we're gonna have a lot of communication because of 133 being closed for an extended period, and
Agreed.
that's a fairly extensive detour.
Yeah.
Where exactly is Sand Hill Creek? How far down is that? Do we?
So where Funston comes out?
Yeah.
That's the project.
Okay, right there.
Funston comes out in between the culvert on one side and the bridge on the other.
So basically, the only way to get around is gonna be to go 87.
That's gonna be the signed detour route. If y'all been in that area, we just recently upgraded Dawes Creek, I believe.
Yeah.
Yep, so, I mean, that's, we wanted to make sure we had that paving first before this project.
Yeah.
Because we know local folks are gonna try to use that, so.
Yeah. I mean, will you be able to, I guess I'm trying to think of, how to get, trying to think, just ways to not put all that traffic on 87, because that's a long detour.
It really is a long detour. That's gonna be the detour that we actually sign for our primary routes, because we sign, we close the primary, we're gonna put detour on the primary, and for our trucks. We could think about a strategic local way to do something different.
We need to make sure we talk to the school system too, and
Definitely.
probably with Duke Energy too, because half their employees take that route back and forth to work.
You're right.
Yeah, good point.
I mean, that's, of all the things, just because of where that is, I mean, that's the one, I mean, I know it's gotta be done, but it's just gonna be painful.
It will be.
I mean, it's gonna be a local version of closing the causeway, closing the Cape Fear Bridge. I
A
mean,
lot of people from Sunny Point. and
Yeah.
Newton
Yep.
use that.
we need to make sure Sunny Point knows about it too,
Yes, definitely.
We'll talk about that offline, but,
So on Monday, at your meeting,
yeah,
they're gonna talk about that in public.
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah.
We are.
So if you want,
Yeah.
And maybe we probably ought to do a stakeholder meeting at some point on that, but we won't get into those details here, but follow
Yeah.
with me on that.
Yeah,
We need
we'll
to,
be happy to do that.
okay.
Yep.
Anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that jumped out at me.
Yeah,
That's okay.
that's what this is.
Thanks. Thank you, Adrian.
Anything else, Adrian?
Yeah, I'll just go through the projects under construction. So the first project is the Bridge 57 over Driving Creek. It's basically 100% complete. We're just doing the checklist and vegetation. And I say checklist, it's the checklist for construction people. Then the next project is Bridge in Pender County. It's over Crooked Run on NC 11. It's about 80% complete. We expect it to be completed later this fall. The next one is the 211 project that we were talking about down in Brunswick near Southport. It's about,
St. James.
yeah, in St. James. St. James.
Sorry.
The city with gates and walls.
Yes, sir.
Where you get most of your complaints from.
That's why I had forgotten about it. I never
Block that out.
Some sort of hypnotic mental block.
So we're about halfway through the completion of that project. A big portion, a third of that project has been utilities. So that's what's been locked down for the most part. So we see that project continuing, and it should be wrapping up in 2027. And keep in mind, we only began this project in beginning of 2022. The next project is in Brunswick County also. It's NC 30 at Longwood and Waccamaw School Road. And that's about 60% complete. Our next project that's in construction. The last one is replacing the bridge over Long Creek on 210. That's in Pender County. It's at least about 16% complete at this point. Your next listing is of your resurfacing maintenance projects. We've completed our ADA ramps for this contract. There was money in the Board of Transportation to continue that as needed, but this project is basically going to be your list.
Is that ferry or what is it?
The ADA ramps,
ADA ramps.
the like sidewalk ramp
Oh, okay.
with the little rumble
Yeah.
strip looking.
Okay.
We're just
Yeah.
upgrading,
Okay.
doing upgrades as needed.
That's just like this, or there will be a new contract number for the next fiscal.
And the other is, we're basically finished resurfacing and the guardrail fixing of I-40 west of 117 to 210. The next one are various routes throughout Brunswick County. Those are pretty much complete as far as that contract, even though our estimated completion date for that contract was considered next year. In Pender County, the next listing is 50, 53, and various second routes for Pender County. That's about 80% complete with a finish date and estimated completion date of fall of this year. We've also been installing broadband fiber across the state. That's about 70% complete. And that contract should be wrapping up in the next 2 years. The last one is NC 130 and various secondary routes in Brunswick. It's about 50% complete. And that is supposed to wrap up this fall. That there has been a stall on that project, but we're checking into it, and we'll provide any updates as needed. And that's all I have for you.
Any questions for Adrian? Not, we'll move on to Division 6.
Yes, Philip Hart, Division 6. In your packet, you should have kind of a new format regarding our project report. The intent was to provide a dashboard look, providing a lot of the same information we have provided in the past, just a little more of an illustration of what these projects look like. And it really, looking at the title sheet on these, it gives you a little more than what we have given to you in the past. So just to kind of give a brief overview of the title sheet, the top left, we have our TIP project number. Moving to the right, we've got our vicinity map, and then followed with the location and the type of work that's being done. The type of work doesn't necessarily describe what's going on the project, but it's the line items that the contractor may get paid for as it relates to the project. And then you have the horizontal alignment of what the project would look like from a bird's eye view. Kind of moving down to the bottom left, you've got your contract number, your graphic scales, your design data, your project length, and then you got your right of way and let date information there. And then in the light blue and green boxes, you've got our project details, comments, and percent of progress. So with that, I'll hit our first project. That's R2561CA. That is NC 87 Old Stage Road / NC 11 at General Howell Road interchange. That's 25% complete. The traffic is being detoured through Sandyfield due to the NC 11 bridge construction. Utility relocation is in progress, and the other intersections in the area will consist of a reduced conflict intersection, or RCI, and those are the Y2, 3, and 4. That's Andrews Drive, Woodyard Road, and Narrow Gap Road. It's estimated to be complete towards the end of 2026. Our next project is R5797. This is US 74 at Old Boardman Road, Macedonian Church Road. We've got, this is kind of over near the Robinson-Columbus County line. You've got that great intersection being converted to interchange. You got roundabouts at the ramps. This is 100% complete, so it will be removed in future meetings or reports. This next project's R5020B, US 701 bypass Madison Street to JK Powell Boulevard. This is in the Whiteville area. You've got a couple of full access, a couple of RCIs, and some right in, right outs. Those intersections are listed. Projects a little over 2 miles in length. You're looking at around 77% complete with estimated completion the end of 2025. Our next project, it's a series of projects listed under the same ID or contract number there. I kind of got highlighted in red. We've got 4 structures in the same area, but we've got bridge replacement 26 over Gum Swamp Run on Dock Road. It's been completed except for the final lift of asphalt. Our next bridge on this package is bridge number 32. It's the overflow of Waccamaw River on Dock Road. This one's also complete except for the final lift of asphalt. And then our third structure is under construction. The percentages of all these are the same because it was led as one contract. But and then our fourth project or structure on this project is also under construction with a detour route through Brunswick County. And that's kind of illustrated in our vicinity map, kind of top left area. So our next project is R5819/R5820. That's our US 74, 76 at Chauncey Town Road, converted an at-grade intersection to interchange. And then it's also combined with another area that's US 74 at Old Lake Road. That's also converting an at-grade intersection to an interchange or overpass, excuse me. So the bridge girders are set. The ramp earthwork's complete. Some of the paving's done. 75% of the paving's done on the ramps. The Chauncey Town widening roundabout construction's underway, and the project is ahead of schedule. We're at 66% complete on that, with estimated completion in early 26. The next project's W5706S. That's a US 74 from west of Birdville Freedman Road to east of Money Hole Road. It's been completed, so it will be removed from our future reports. This is another one that's been completed. That's BR 0073. That's a bridge structure 05 over US 76 Gapway Swamp. I want to say the final inspection was in early June. There was probably some punch list items, but they have been wrapped up, so it will be removed from future reports. Our next one has again kind of been a trouble location or intersection. This is a project that should be complete by now. It was projected to be complete, I would say, at the end of July. The location kind of suffered from a high water table, which contributed to some delays, but it should be completed by now. Our next project is HI0015. This is over near Columbus and Brunswick County line, US 74 or future I-74 west of NC 214 to west of Water Tank Road. Basically got some pavement and structure rehab with a little bit of drainage work. The project has been let and awarded, and they are expected to begin work, I want to say, following Labor Day weekend in September. Our next project's another one that's recently been let and awarded. We've got bridge number 201 on Old Lumberton Road over Western Prong Creek. This is a non-step project, bridge project. The road was closed in the middle of July to begin construction. However, that we have not received a pay app, so therefore the construction progress is being showed as 0, but work should be in progress on this project with detour installed. So our next project is one that I acquired an update from our aviation partners, but is the Columbus County Municipal Airport apron expansion. It's a 180-day contract. Contract was scheduled to begin late July, and the expected completion date is early 2025. So hopefully we'll get some more updates on that as things progress. And then the next illustration is basically a picture of our county map, kind of broken up into different shades or zones, if you will. We've got the light blue and green and pink and things like that. So this is county broken into zones that our maintenance crews go out and perform our maintenance activities. And then the legend, if you will, over to the right kind of illustrates what our schedule looks like from a planning perspective over the next 5 years. regarding our preservation and our resurfacing operations throughout the county. Typically, we like to kind of attack the county in a clockwise direction. As you can see, there's a lot of color kind of over to the west side of northwest side of the county. So overall, pretty good shape. The roads are pretty well maintained. But we always add the note that project details are subject to change based on funding availability and future plans. So our next slide is a table format. It basically kind of reiterates the illustration of the county. The HMIP is our highway maintenance improvement plan. It consists of a lot of our I would say our seal treatments, our fog or seal treatments, or some of our concrete installations like our ADA ramps. You've got the widening, pavement markings, milling, things like that. It's more of a maintenance operation when it comes to the HMIP side of things. And those are our list of projects and percentages associated with those, with distances and the amount of routes that are impacted. Our next slide is our HMIP and some safety projects mixed in with basically kind of identifying our future projects in the area. In locations, if it consists of a route on a primary like NC or US route, typically I'll try to list that out just because of the potential impacts that it may have in the area. But moving on, we've got our future, I'll say, our STEP projects, or kind of our larger roadway style type projects. We've got a couple of those listed out. You know, they're being prioritized as part of the P7. So, and then we've got a local administrative project down in on US 701 business from Jesse Street to Linwood Norris Road. This is a sidewalk project. So with that, if there's any questions, my contact information is at the bottom.
Yeah.
I'll be happy to take any, and if I don't have answers for you, I can get back with you. If nobody has anything else, the last slide is just kind of one that. Okay.
I'm sorry, I had one question. This is Mayor Gary Keaton from the town of Sandyfield. Do you have an estimated completion time for the NC 8711, just the bridge that's being redone over on NC 11 side? Do you have an estimated completion time for that?
I do not, but I can reach out to get one.
Okay, if you would, I'd appreciate it. Had some residents just inquiring about it because, of course, we have the increased, traffic flow coming through Woodyard Road, and we know it's a part of the project, but just inquiring. So I just wanted to inquire and see if I could get an answer. And while I'm on, I'd also like to say thank you for whoever was responsible for getting the road fixed at the end of NC 87 in Woodyard. It took a while to get that repaved, but that repaving has been completed, and it makes a huge difference in going to and from every day. So thank you so much for that.
All right. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Any other questions or anything else you want to add, Philip?
No, just the last slide. It was just some information I kind of put together just because of all the impacts and constructions on our roadways. We've got things that are happening in our work zones, and there was some information that kind of I thought would probably be good to kind of share with the group because it was something I guess maybe a little surprising to me. Speeding and distraction driving causes over half the work crashes in our work zones. And then there was kind of a profound statement there. Work zones are temporary, but actions behind the wheel can last forever. There's some stats from 2021. And as a part of this, our governor, as you know, they've got the highway safety program, and they roll out these various initiatives throughout the years. I think I've got a list there, but I think one of them has kind of been rebranded to Operation Firecracker. Just kind of keep these stats in mind as you travel the roadways. Just in Columbus County alone, we're looking at impacts on over 70 roads, consisting of over 120 miles just in Columbus County. So it may not be something that you're doing, but it may be something that someone else is doing. So just kind of keep that in mind as we travel throughout the summer. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions? If not, we'll move on to transportation planning.
Good morning. I'm Hemal Shah sitting in for Nazia Sardar. Transportation Planning Division newsletter is attached in your agenda packet. We are working on a Columbus County Comprehensive Transportation Plan and updating the draft recommendations for highway, public transportation and rail, bicycle, and the pedestrian modes, and also updating our documentation, the report that goes along with the comprehensive transportation plan. We are hoping to finalize the draft recommendation by this fall and then go for adoption. And I'll take any questions if you have.
Any questions? Well, if not, thank you for the update. Until Nazia, we said hello. And we'll move on to integrated mobility.
I don't think we have anybody today.
Anyone online? If not, we'll go to Board of Transportation. Are either of them online? Well, if not, that concludes the reports, and we'll move on to open discussion. And one thing I did want to suggest, and this is something I thought of in Brunswick County, is we have Waccamaw area, which does not have a town, but is a large area in the RPO planning area. And we have the stakeholder meetings. How can we include that area? We've been inviting towns, but there's not a town there to invite. So I don't know who we would invite to that. And they're probably, I know in Pender County, it'd be Hampstead, although they're probably MPO. But that would be an example. And in the other counties, there may be these large unincorporated areas. And if we're just inviting the mayors and the towns, we're missing out on some of these key places. So that's just something to think about when we're doing our individual stakeholder meetings in our community. So anyone else have any comments, questions, or other discussion?
One thing I was just asking Mike about, where we're gonna be closing 133 and routing traffic down 87. We already have a cluster there. We're not widening the lanes. And then we've got a community center who's gonna be letting kids try to get out on through 87, take them to school with all this extra traffic. To me, personally, having these turn lanes shouldn't have been a priority if we're gonna do this routing down 87, and that wasn't thought of. So there needs to be a little bit more rethinking when we make these plans, the outcome and effects that's gonna happen coming through like our city.
And if there are any alternate additional detour routes, I don't know if there's the ability to have more than one.
I know.
I don't know.
That's what I'm saying.
Might have to get some four-wheel drive tires, but
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just, that's gonna be, to me, that's a localized version of closing Cape Fear Bridge. It really is.
I mean, really.
That's the impact it could have. Did I read that the closure date could run through next summer?
Potentially can, yes.
I mean, if there's that would concern me with it possibly getting into next year's hurricane season, and hopefully hopefully this year's will be over before it starts, because that's one of about 3 ways out of that part of the county.
But you said this is gonna start in September, didn't you?
Yeah, so that's whenever we have our letting. So that's when we receive bids. Usually it's, 4 to 6 weeks after when we start. So
No,
We'll
man.
get the tail end of it.
yeah, that's how we tried to plan it. And I mean, I'm sure Dan will hit this point too on Monday night, but those 3 major corridors that kind of get folks from that side of the county out. We have projects on all 3 of those corridors. We're trying to, work on one route, leave the other 2 open. And just because there's another bridge on 87 that we have to replace too, but we're not even going to start that.
Yeah, so I noticed that, and I was looking at those too, yeah.
Until we finish this. And I mean, back to your point about the turn lanes. Yeah, I mean, those things, you're right. We do need to think about those a little better. I'll just say we missed it, but the train hadn't stopped yet, so we can have some conversations,
Yeah.
so.
I just worried about the kids trying to get across.
Yeah, I get it.
Entire school year.
Yeah.
Right.
Would that adjust your data-driven points? In other words, your data-driven points is based on this criteria right here.
Mhm.
But since you're artificially causing something else to happen, will that in the future, I'm talking about,
would that cause the data-driven points to give this a higher rating? So it would be funded, potentially funded if there was ever any money to fund anything, faster? I mean, is there a way to run that together?
I'm not sure. What you're saying makes sense, but I'm not sure about the points.
That's something that would have to come from the work group that meets statewide to discuss what goes into that scoring. I know that they're about to start meeting again here in the next few weeks.
Is that something that this RPO has implemented?
That's something I can ask about.
Okay, I'm just trying to figure out in the future how that these smaller projects that are aligned with your big projects would help the big project along.
And I just wrote down a note related to that, maybe bring up for them to consider when they're scoring the domino effect of how this construction project is going to adversely affect another corridor. And does exactly what the mayor said. Is there something else that needs to be done somewhere else to reduce the pain while they're working on this? And that's something, if there's a way to incorporate that, and I don't know, I mean, and I know this one was very quickly remedied, but they were getting ready to do some lane closures on 140 right about the time the Cape Fear Bridge closed. And obviously, once that came to, they realized that connection, they postponed that.
Yeah.
And obviously, this is a much bigger thing, closing a bridge versus closing a lane, but that was where this thing over here affected this thing over here. And they're not two independent things.
I know that the scoring criteria is largely driven by the STI law, so
Yeah.
they're kind of conscripted by whatever is within that law.
Is the STI law state law?
Yeah.
Yes.
So that brings me to a point that in the GSATs, the local House member attends those meetings. In these meetings, we don't have our representative here. Should we have our representative come to these meetings so that they can hear that maybe there's a code text section that needs to be adjusted?
Yeah, I don't know that we necessarily need to have them here. We just need to tell them what's on our mind. I'm not sure that him going to those meetings is helpful or hurtful. I think he just likes to go because he's there. But he's probably the only one in the room that understands the law because he helped write it, but I won't say that out loud again.
I'm just trying to figure out how we have a better.
Yeah.
Even if that means for these isolated things, we guys have a direct conversation with them to make them smarter, make Raven and Noah smarter about the issues that are in front of us. If it's a change in the law to allow this to happen, well, that takes about 2 years to get through, if it's going to go at all, 2 years through the process to do that.
Yeah.
Or it could happen within days of the next session.
One thing, the Wilmington MPO actually has a legislative agenda. Do we need one?
I was having this conversation this past week about that. I just don't see where we're tied into that. Because quite frankly, we all know that in the real world of the way North Carolina runs, the legislature can just give $2 million outside of this whole program to a thing like that.
And also related to how that, they can't know how these things, it's easy to come up with an idea for how this law is going to work, but then, no plan survives contact with the enemy, so to speak. And they've got to get feedback on how it actually works on the ground. And they can't get that unless we tell them. So I think maybe we need to work on, once prioritization is done, actually thinking about what are our legislative priorities for next year's long session from this RPO. You can look at the MPOs and maybe get some ideas, but ours will be different because it's rural. And do you meet with the other RPO directors?
I do.
Find out if any of them have an advocacy agenda, and if not, maybe we can start a trend.
I'll ask them.
Maybe we can start a statewide trend on that, because the MPOs are doing it, so then the advocacy is all about urban transportation, not about rural.
That was, when I heard that Frank was going to these other meetings, it spurred my interest in trying to figure out how does this RPO at least start off with someplace.
And maybe
have some input into it.
Maybe at our next meeting, we can have that on the agenda, and we can even discuss if we wanted to form a committee of both people from this group and the TCC to work on what our ideas would be. Because I think, like I go back to what I said earlier, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. The big groups the RPOs have multiple staff, they have town lobbyists that help them, and they've got a lot of organization, we would have to be involved in that as a board because we have one staffer and he's already got a lot to do.
Well, yeah, that would be like a subcommittee from this
Yeah.
board would go and the board would agree that this is the agenda we want.
Absolutely.
And then they would move forward with having those conversations.
So when's our next meeting?
The October
The
meeting.
October meeting?
I'll do some homework on this and
Would the board have any objection to authorizing us to, between now and then, maybe put together a subcommittee of people to go ahead and start putting some ideas together? If his research is that this would be a good idea, maybe we actually bring some ideas to discuss for the next meeting,
I think that would be a great idea.
because I could help.
Isn't that the RTAC, isn't that their job?
Well, that's us.
Not, I'm sorry, the,
TCC.
yeah.
They're more technical projects. They don't really get into legislative stuff.
They're staff people, they're not
Yeah,
gonna be.
that would be us as electeds putting that together. And I would candidly not want to defer to them. I'd want that to be something led by the people who also have to face the voters. If y'all have no objection to me working on some ideas, I will get those out to the board in advance of that meeting. And we may put that on the agenda depending on how far we get on it. Anything else anyone wants to discuss?
I have just a few things.
Yes.
First, just to throw him on the spot, Danny is a new member of our COG here. Just give him a second to introduce himself. You might be seeing him around.
My name is Danny Nickel. I just graduated from Elon University this past May, and I am technically employed through the University of North Carolina School of Government as a Leeds North Carolina Fellow, and in place here with the COG until the end of June. So I have a mixture of responsibilities between admin and local government services. So you'll see me around.
Welcome, and School of Government's a great organization. I mean, North Carolina's, I go to County Commissioner Association national conferences, and we are very unique to have the School of Government. Not many states have something like that. I'm just happy to know you're not a reporter.
Yeah, but if there's any resource that I can help you connect with the school, an advantage with finding yourself.
Legislative.
Absolutely, yeah. Welcome.
And then I also wanted to provide one more note. We brought this up a while ago, but when I send out the agenda packets, I obviously send it via email. If anyone would like a printed copy mailed to them in advance of the meeting, I can do that. So just let me know. So if you're not already receiving one in the mail, you'd like a physical copy before you get here on the Friday morning, just let me know.
And I'll also add, it's easy these days to assume that everyone uses an electronic calendar, but not everyone does. So if any of you don't use an electronic calendar, make sure that he knows that, so he knows how to send you the notices. And we had years ago on our board, people getting calendar invites, they didn't use an electronic calendar. So of course, they weren't showing up to the meeting, so they didn't have it in their paper calendar. And I think that's important to consider. Not everybody uses the same technology. While we were here, I texted a commissioner who's not here and hasn't been here in a while, and they said that the meeting slipped their mind. So I asked them, I said, will it help us to get your clerk in the loop on communication? And he said, absolutely. So if you want your clerk to also get these notices, please make sure Sam knows that, because I've got a friend who's a mayor that will remain unnamed, but if his clerk doesn't know about it, he doesn't show up for it. It doesn't matter whether he tells you he's going to be there or not. If his clerk doesn't know, he's not going to be there, because he will forget. He will be eating lunch, probably at a place I could identify, but I won't get into that either. But that's just, you know exactly who I'm talking about, but he's in my district. I'll leave it at that. But I just think that's important to make sure that Sam knows how to get the information in a way that works for you as well. And if you've got colleagues that are not on this call, mention that to them, please, so that we can make sure we get everybody getting the info. Anything else? Going once, going twice? If not, we will adjourn at 10:20. Thank you. We'll touch base about that.
I'd like to be part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. You make sure I have your number in my. 703-507-7448. Cool.